What made Marcos win? This is my observation how someone in the brink captured the heart of Filipinos. I believe there is a sole reason to his victory, that is, our natural responses for underdogs pushing us for love, sympathy and empathy. Yes, he was an underdog as victim of harsh reality in relation to the Marcos name and its stigma. For decades, the Marcos family was sort of wastebasket of the people's hate and disparage in such verbal abuse, written or spoken, wherein accusations and negative backlash were sort of beating instruments that pounded on them helplessly, and in the dimness of hope, because a minority of Filipinos, perhaps in few millions, had become the power that stood out since 1986 EDSA revolt. Noteworthy, that these revolutionists were a minority and had not represented the whole Filipinos, yet they were mighty to have been effective through their solidarity and big mouth, and since then, they were the battle cry of independence, as the silent majority were simply overwhelmed by the crushing on of activism with the battle cry of justice, independence, democracy they have propelled, even in their status as minority. The yellow minority became the power of the Philippines, even though they were never representatives of it, as the silent majority became silent observers. Since that time, the Marcos family was a sitting duck target of these assuming and self-righteous proponents of justice, wherein many resorted to blame, hate and contempt on the Marcos. This became the trend as the birth of the yellow dignity or yellow pride was the silence of the Marcos, that bearing the agony of being public villains, they tended to have simply licked the wounds in utter tolerance, in humility, and simply sacrificed diligently in silence from the stigma of being a Marcos. People saw this reality and it piled in substantially by heart and memory, such that in needed time, the natural recourse would be empathy, sympathy and love for underdogs. We realize that this too is power, as when in something like an electoral procedure giving them chances to express it, the silent majority has erupted in such epic resonance of love and emotional attachment, the love for underdogs, crushing down the self-imposed yellow power, and thus begin the life of true patriotism, as being the majority reflects in it the heart of true and loving Filipinos. Lastly, God's admonition. 1 Timothy 2:1-3. 1. I exhort therefore, that, first of all, supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks, be made for all men. 2. For kings, and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. 3. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Saviour. Yellows and pinks, let us not resort to total opposition. Consider God and be godly in return. No hate for anyone, a proverb suitable in times like these. Thank you.